Welcome back to New Day, Saturday edition. And remember, you can follow us on our live stream on Facebook. We're also streaming live on 3news.com. And we're live on 3FM 92.7. From those of you who are listening to us on radio, you can all contribute to our discussions via WhatsApp number 0500 60 70 70. We'll share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Let me quickly begin by introducing my guests for this morning. To my immediate left, I have Adam Bona. Adam Bona is a security analyst, is joining us here to discuss the security issues that are coming before us this morning. And to my immediate right, we have Kwame Jantua. Kwame Jantua is a private legal practitioner, and everyone knows him. He is here with us this morning. And I have Bobby Bunsen. Bobby Bunsen is also a private legal practitioner. Gentlemen, great to have you this morning, and thank you very much for joining us at this short notice. Now, we'll begin our discussions with the arrest of Baba Hassan, who is one of the leaders of the Kandahar boys, who played a key role in laying siege at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. They ejected the CEO from his office. He had at the time received visitors and guests. They kicked the guests out as well and locked up the offices. They were actually doing that to push for a demand to dismiss him from office for accusations of incompetence. They say also that he has neglected them. The police actually issued a wanted alert on Wednesday, and he was picked up on Thursday. He has already been put before court. The court has adjourned to September 3, and he is to face charges of assault. I'm told we're hearing that he's facing charges of assault, unlawful entry, and offensive conduct. That's what the police said on a Thursday. So let me start with you, Adam Bona. This is obviously a very big security issue. But before we come to you, let's go back and listen to the police in the Tamale giving the ringleaders of, I beg your pardon, of the Kandahar boys who ejected the CEO from his office. We'll come back and continue with our discussions.
With any CEO, this is not the first.
Yeah.
Will we say that it will be the last?
Yeah, it won't be the last, and it won't be the first time again, because we, the youth, we go with truth, and we always make sure that truth will prevail. Any other person that the president will nominate or appoint to head this facility, and that person is not correct, I swear heaven and earth, we will come back. We will come back and sack that person. Initially, I told you that Dr. Kolbila is having 7 companies registered in his name, and he's awarding contracts for himself. You understand? He goes out and buy ordinary gloves, examination gloves, which is 23 Ghana cedis. And when he comes to the hospital, he will escalate or parachute the price to 70 Ghana cedis per packet, which is causing financial loss to the hospital.
Right, this actually makes you really appreciate the issues at hand. Adam Bona, you heard him very clearly, and I won't say he has used threatening expressions, but this is lawlessness, isn't it?
Yeah. First of all, good morning to your cherished viewers, and good morning to my colleagues on the, on the panel. Good morning to yourself. Yes, I think this is not, just like he mentioned, it's probably won't be the last that will see this type of action. And like he did say, it's probably not the first time, especially within the Tamale metropolis or the northern region. We've seen, issues of, these vigilante groups taking the law into their own hands, before the recent one, attacking contractors who are lawfully doing their work, and more so, even chasing out workers of the urban road or highways, locking up facilities and, beating up, people they perceive to be probably not in support of certain things they are doing. And so I would say that the law must work and the police would have to sit up. For me, young people who think, they belong to political parties, and for want of a better expression, not having anything to do, not being employed or not having any form of employment shouldn't give you an excuse to be used, because if you review his statement, he did mention a particular doctor who has been transferred from the facility. He did mention some names within the facility that have been transferred. And to them and to him, they are fighting for those people. And so I was expecting by now the police should have, interrogated these people. Could it be that these people whose name were mentioned in their statement actually used them to perpetuate this criminality?
Instigated their attack.
Yes. I mean, this is another way of getting to know who did it. And to add insult to injury, only one person has been arrested since the issue.
That's not enough. I mean,
No,
he's a ringleader.
No, that is not.
You're thinking that you can cut off the head of the snake by just picking him up.
I mean, if you know when, I don't know how old you were when Rollins attempted to, take over. He was locked up. It was the other ranks who got him out. And so there could be a ringleader, but the ringleader might not be in charge. And so for me, that wouldn't be an excuse. I think the police should go after all of them. But to say we have arrested just one of them, to me, we need to be asking the police a lot of questions. Is there something that we don't know with regards to, getting these hoodlums and criminals, arrested? As at yesterday, we are told, yes, lawfully, I mean, this is a bailable offense, and so one will say that if his lawyers are good, I mean, he could be given bail and all that. But the point still remains that where are the other people who, he didn't go there alone. He didn't go there alone. And if you remember, Steve, these highways and locking up officers, I think on your network, Bugri Nabu did mention that he actually asked them to, undertake some of these acts. And Bugri Nabu is still working free. And so if you still have all of these people in the system who have not been invited by the CID, neither have they been invited by the police, then one will say that these young people somehow are going to be urged on to take the law into their own
You think they're emboldened because of their political affiliation to the ruling government?
It is one thing, but even within a political party, you have divisions. Bugri Nabu did contest the MPP regional chairmanship race, and he lost, isn't it? Bugri Nabu has his own camp. I'm not, personalizing it. But what I'm saying is that he did come out clearly to speak on national TV, radio, to say, I instructed these boys and probably girls to take over, some of these facilities because I think that we are not being favored, even though we fought for the party to come into power. And the police never, I haven't heard anywhere, any report saying that Bugri Nabu has been invited for interrogation. If Bugri Nabu is invited for interrogation and those who instigate them, then one will say that, yes, we are trying to deal with the issue from the grassroots. But as of now,
otherwise, you will think that the police is not doing enough
to
show that it is committed in tackling this vigilantism.
Yes, Stephen. So,
Mr. Jantwa, let me turn to you. This week, I'm sure you may have followed the news that the health minister was stoned, actually, in parts of the western region when Ejumako, I'm told, where he had gone to commission a project which allegedly was started by the previous NDC administration. So it doesn't just end there. It's not an issue of MPP Kandahar boys or vigilantism, but it's becoming something else. And health minister being stoned and driven away from a community, he had gone to do legitimate work. So we have a crisis on our hand, don't we?
Stephen, good morning. Good morning to my panelists and good morning to our viewers. It looks as if this country is becoming lawless. We have laws in this country, and maybe the people don't understand what these laws mean. Maybe the police aren't enforcing the laws adequately for people to know that there are regulations to everything we do. Number one, why is it that a project that was started by a previous government, these same people, when I say same people, people of Ghana, voted a different party into power, not the party that started the project. The project is finished. The party you have voted into power is the one that is now coming to open the project. And you say what? They shouldn't be the ones to open the project? So why did you vote the other party out of power? And anyway, is it not for the community's good? The hospital that they have established there, isn't it for the community? But I blame politics. That is what I blame. I blame the rift that we have within our political parties. The fact that when we talk politics, we talk party first before country. Yeah. And you would have expected that with such a thing, both the NDC and MPP will sit down together and have a press conference and tell the people that this cannot go on. It is not right. After all, are we not all Ghanaians?
But it has been going on. There being the Kandahar boys, there have been invisible forces, vigilante groups, being emboldened consistently.
I'm coming there. The genesis of all this is political parties. Yeah. The genesis of all this is political parties. It is a slap in the face of the president, what that gentleman just said. That if the president brings any other person there and they feel that person is not doing the right thing, they will come back again.
They will kick him out.
Exactly. Are you the president? Did they vote you into power? What right do you have to say that kind of thing? What right? Do you not respect the hierarchy in this country? Do you not respect, especially when you're part and parcel of that party? Okay, let's say that maybe the guy was a CPP sympathizer and he did that.
Or PPP.
Or PPP or NDC. It will be understood to some degree that he doesn't like the party in power. But he's part and parcel of it. And so, the question I then ask, what is the party doing about it? What is the party doing? You see, such things, I expect the chairman of the MPP to send a stern warning out to all these people and to take steps.
But do you not see that if the party makes statements on this, it might be seen as interference in due process? I mean, the police is doing its work, so why should the political party whose members are doing this get involved?
Let me just quote something I just pulled up on this Tamale thing. It says, spokesperson for a group calling itself the Concerned New Patriotic Party Youth Coalition, Baba Harasan, the guy we just interviewed, part and parcel of the MPP. Is it up to CPP or NDC to go and make sure that they stop? It is within the womb and confines of the MPP.
This is an MPP matter.
Yes, they have to deal with it. And if the chairman isn't dealing with it, the president should direct the chairman to deal with it. Because why? It affects everybody. It's not only affecting members of the MPP. It's affecting everybody.
You think this could be a big electoral decider
for 2020? Stephen.
Am I going too far?
When has it been a big decider? When are such things been a big decider? It should do. It should do. But our people are not really politically educated to understand some of these things. So far as they're concerned, my party, I'm supporting my party. I'm doing anything to put my party into place. But this is the wrong thing. Go by the intellect of what the country is looking at and not a political party. And you see, if we do not turn the tables back, where we bring country before party, if we do not become more patriotic in this country, it's going to go on. Apart from that, is it not taxpayers' money they used to build this hospital? It's not taxpayers' money. It is. Exactly. And should members of a political party not take that into consideration first? And that you get this kind of a riot in the central region. Do you not respect the Minister of Health? And what if it so happened that, and I understand one of the journalists from multimedia, a stone was thrown and it hit his head. And even the police, this media thing that happened with Anidio Host thing, in what do you call it, at the police headquarters. What happened? Did the same thing not happen where a policeman thought he had a gun, so he was, running riot with it and hurt somebody grievously? As individuals and as citizens of Ghana, we should make sure the law works. We should make sure we follow the constitution. But all this stems from education. So you ask, is it NCCE? Are those the people who are supposed to make sure that some of these things in the towns and the communities, they make sure that they educate people? In the Nkrumah time, what did they have? They had information vans going round, educating people, telling people some of the things that the government was doing, reasons why certain things shouldn't happen, reasons why certain things should happen, reasons why they had tangas people to come and inspect your house for filth and dirt. People got to understand what has happened to all these things. And whose responsibility is it to bring that moral fabric back? Because everything is turned upside down.
You think that our society's values are eroding gradually?
Eroding. They have eroded. Eroding. They have eroded. They have eroded. When a motorcyclist feels that he can drive haphazardly on the road, when people crossing the road feel that they can walk leisurely crossing the road on a highway.
I parked my car in front of a shop. I got back and all my tires were deflated by the shop owner.
When people feel that...
I was stunned.
I said, when people feel that they can cross the motorway anyhow, isn't the moral fabric of the country broken? When people feel they can talk to anybody anyhow on radio, and instead of looking at the issues, all they do is insult, where's the moral fabric? And unfortunately, the young ones are also following it because nobody is there to correct them. Look at our televisions. Look at some of the things they show on our televisions today. Is it educative? So whose responsibility is it? Responsibility is on parents. Responsibility is on teachers. Responsibility is on parliament. Responsibility is on government. They all have roles to play. In our days, when we used to go to school, you stand at the bus stop. The bus comes at the time it's supposed to come. You get on the bus, you're sitting down, an old person walks. As soon as the old person walks in, you get up. Does it happen today?
No.
It doesn't. These little things, little drops of water always make a mighty ocean. It has become a mighty ocean.
It has become a mighty ocean. Bobby Bansing, let's bring you into the discussion. This is a law and order issue, would you say? Or like Mr. Jantua inferred, is it our moral fiber that has degenerated?
Good morning to everyone. And I am saddened that we would have to discuss these issues in these contests again. I associate myself with the submissions, Mr. Bonnet, and then my senior Santa Clausian. Yeah, on this matter, you could see how passionate he always is when it comes to these issues. Is it a law and order issue, or is it a manifestation of the fact that we've lost, to a very large extent, our moral fiber as a society? I think it's a political issue. That is the baseline for me. You could argue morality, you could argue law and order, but at the end of the day, if the people who have the power refuse to use the power that has been given to them, especially against those who are perceived to support them, we will come to this stage. The MPP is in power, so let me talk about the MPP. If it had happened in the NDC's time, we would have used the same yardstick. Since the MPP took over office, we have consistently seen acts exhibited by people who claim they support them. On this network, we discussed it when they did the Kumasi. They walked into a courtroom and then brought out people. An MPP stalwart said nothing would happen to those boys. If anything happens to those boys, he's going to make sure that the MPP suffers for it.
And indeed, nothing
happened to them. After that, there was a national rally in Tema, some national event in Tema. These boys took the microphone on live television and said they were promised jobs. They have not been given jobs. If the party does not give them job at a certain time, what happened in Kumasi will be small. On live television, we all watched it. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was arrested. I said it on this platform when discussing it that, listen, for me, it is a manifestation of the failure of the MPP executives at whatever level, national, regional, constituency, district. If these things happen, like Mr. Bonner was suggesting, and I agree with him, these boys are not acting on their own. No. The man was talking about gloves being sold for 70 cedis instead of 23 cedis. He's not a staff.
No. How did he know?
How did he know? Yeah. He's saying somebody has been transferred. He doesn't work there. He's not said, I have applied for a job and I wasn't given.
How did he know?
How did he know? People behind the scenes are using these boys and promising them that nothing will happen to you. Now, that video clip that you showed, there were 6 people standing behind him. I counted 6. And they were nodding their head. Are they telling me in Tamale? I've been to Tamale several times. If they wanted this guy, they couldn't, and all the people, they couldn't go and arrest them in their homes. Stephen, I'm a lawyer, so I must be careful what I say when the matter is pending before court.
That's right.
But I want to see, if he has been granted bail, I'm sure he pleaded not guilty. In the Kumasi one, we were told that the judge received an instruction from the Attorney General's office that the prosecutor, sorry, not the judge, the prosecutor received an instruction from the Attorney General's office not to prosecute the case because they didn't have evidence. When there were video recording, everything was in the public space. They didn't have evidence. Let us hope that they will have evidence in this one.
And evidence for assault on lawful entry on offensive.
The man had granted interviews.
Are these charges
well, I don't see
sticking?
I don't see the charges that they could have brought against him. Unlawful entry, assault, they are fair. I wouldn't. They are fair charges.
Offensive conduct.
Offensive conduct. They are fair charges. But I want to see if they would carry out the prosecution to its logical conclusion. The man has pleaded not guilty. He has granted interview not only to TV3, to both, all sorts of media have reported him standing there saying it. And he's pleaded not guilty, saying that he did this, and if they bring another person, they are going to come back. Let us see what they will do. If the MPP wants to show that their motto says freedom and development, if we are not getting the freedom, how can we develop?
Mr. Bonner, I'll come to you, but let me bring this aspect of the discussion with you, Mr. Jansua, that following from these attacks, the nurses and doctors at the Tamale Teaching Hospital decided to suspend their service. That's also something else. The people, the community is going to suffer. The region is going to suffer. Those who deserve to be to get medical attention are not getting it. Is this issue becoming too serious than it is?
They also have rights, don't they? Those who work in that facility, they need to protect themselves, don't they? And if Baba Alassane and Co. feel that they have the right to do what they have to do, they also have the right to protect themselves. And if they understood how laws work in this country, and they felt that they had a case against the medical doctor, they should have reported to the police. Exactly. Or they should have reported to the regulator, or reported to anybody, any institution that oversees the actions of that hospital. And they will take it from there. It's not mob justice. It's not mob justice. So definitely, the people who work there need to be protected. Now, I heard on the radio the police saying that they are going to put a post there. Is it necessary?
But how did the boys get in?
Is it necessary? Then put a post in every hospital, because it can happen anywhere. Is it necessary? It's not taxpayers' money. And as my learned friend is saying, arrest those guys. Let us see some positive action from the police. Because, okay, we say it's political parties. The genesis of it is political parties. But we have police who are supposed to make sure that law and order works. What are they doing about it? Because the police too don't seem to want to be able to make sure that the law is working. Because that's the first point of call. And I always say, maybe others don't agree with me, the election or nomination of the IGP should not be on a political level.
But would it change anything, for example, in this circumstance?
Why it will change anything? Because if I have been made an IGP, my commitment, if I can use
your
that,
loyalty?
my loyalty is to the person who put me there. My loyalty is to the person who put me there.
And not to the people or the institution?
The person who put me there comes first. Look, it runs through our system. We are looking for money for ourselves before we look for money for the country. So any way and means we find we can make money from the country, we do it. Go to our civil service. Go to what's happening within our civil service. Look at the bank crisis. Look at the bank crisis. We do not bring country first in this country. We do not. Because if we brought country first, the police should be the first ones to move in. Even if a minister, even if anybody who is seen as somebody who is known in this country does wrong, the police immediately should move in. The security agencies should quickly move in. Go to the UK. Try and do something wrong. And you see how Scotland Yard will descend on you.
You see how police
whether
works.
You are prime minister or you are a road sweeper. Does that happen in this country? Does that happen in this country? When you walk on the streets of London and you see a policeman, your heart jumps. Why? Because they have the presence. They are not holding gun. Police in Ghana, on the streets, they hold gun, but people are not scared of them.
Mr. Janswa, let me come to Mr. Bona. Mr. Bona, so the key issue is that Mr. Janswa raised a very important point, that the appointment of the IGP is part of this whole, what I want to call inaction of the police service. Do you think it will solve anything at all if, for example, we pass a legislation that makes it possible for the IGP not to be appointed by the president?
It will solve 99% of the, security situation in terms of policing we have in the country.
Really?
Yes.
That's more than 100%.
Yes. I'm being very, yeah. You know what? If you want to test how the police can perform, touch one of them. We have one of the best police institutions in the world. We have one of the best, without any shred of doubt in my mind. But if you want to test how,
how efficient they can be,
these people
try
are,
one of their men.
If there's a police officer in front of TV3, get there, beat him down, and run away, go under a bunker, they will take you out. You know, what do you call it, Combien? I've mentioned it this week. Combien was arrested when he dared the then police commander in the northern region. What's his name? Awuni, the late Awuni. Awuni and his boys, they, brought him back from Togo. They arrested him. Because what did he do? He killed a police officer also and, shot at some of them and dared them that they can't get at him because he had some natural, some superpowers of a sort. Kweku Ninja. Kweku Ninja, the late Kweku Ninja and his, another police officer were killed, buried under concrete. The police team that went there, the forensic team that went there, exactly, they were able to detect where Kweku Ninja was buried and dug him out. They exhumed him. The late Ashilevi. I'm just giving you scenarios here to let you know that it isn't that our police officers cannot work, but because of the interference, which is not perceived. Let's not put it under perception. It's not perceived, it is real. Because first of all, who are those in charge of RECSEC? Who are those in charge of the municipal, Security Council, and then DISEC?
They are all political.
They are all political appointees. These are not career security couples. These are not career, police officers. Yet they are the people who, give instructions usually to the regional police commander.
Champion security.
They champion security. You know what's coming. Recently, the president had to take some decisions in the Upper West region when some hoodlums, I mean, the case is in court, when they run, you know, some institution. The president took some decisions.
Mr. Bona, I'll hold you briefly. I have on the telephone lines the national, someone from the WANEP, West African Network for Peace Building, Albert Yeliang. He was supposed to join us via Skype, but we were unable to establish that connection. Good evening, good morning, and thank you very much.
Too much for
joining us. So we're discussing a very important issue which affects the community, the attack on the CEO of the Tamale Teaching Hospital by a group of pro-MPP boys. I don't like calling them vigilante groups because then we seek to legitimize what they do by calling them vigilantes. But do you get the sense that our inability to clamp down on the operations of such groups is actually a breakdown of a breakdown of community cohesion? I'm not sure whether you understand the point I'm making.
Thank you, and good morning to you and your viewers or the listeners. I think that basically it shouldn't be a lack of breakdown of community cohesion, but that we have probably allowed individuals in society, some people in groups, to take the law into their own hands. And once they have that courage to act with impunity, then they will continue to do that because they have the feeling that whatever that they do, they will still get away with it. You know, so I don't think that is a lack of breakdown of community cohesion.
You don't think that is also a breakdown of our value system? I mean, as a community, if we instill values in our young ones, they respect the elderly and they speak with respect to all others. So the fact that these boys could just storm a hospital, eject the CEO from his office, lock the office up, and seek to dismiss him technically, that's worrying, isn't it?
It's worrying. It's very unfortunate. That incident indeed is not the first. These things have happened for some time now, and we are worried that they continue to happen. Even before that incident, 2 weeks or so before that incident, a similar thing happened at the Ghana Highways Authority in Tamale. You know, we are hearing, and that is not. I don't think that because individuals, as we live in societies, would always have, do some other things differently. And so people can be talked to, but they will still go ahead and do things differently. We arrest thieves all the time for generations since human beings have existed. They speak to them, but we still have thieves. You know, so I think that basically, if we begin to act, let the law work, and let people know that wrong is wrong, crime is crime, it will be an example for others. You know, we may not have eliminated that, but then we will have that number of people engaging in such things reduced, you know, so to speak. So I think that much as we continue to educate people and we think that we need to build a kind of a moral fabric among people, instill in them tolerance, respect for elders and society and people that they live with in terms of living together, you know, we still have to make sure that the law, the regulations that are there are active and effective in order to care people who would go out of the way.
Right. Mr. Yeliang, we're grateful. Thank you extremely for joining us for this discussion. Albert Yeliang is with the West African Network for Peace Building. He is actually the National Network Coordinator. So, Mr. Bona, he touched on just what we were discussing, that it goes beyond just moral fiber, but the existing laws must be made to work.
Exactly. And sometimes I wonder why, even though, you know, there is, you know, there's known political interference in, you know, certain areas within the country, we still want to see, you know, police officers, you know, trying to be heroes, you know, in the past, people would join the police or the military or the fire service or the, you know, the security agencies because they would have watched some police officer rescuing somebody or a fire officer rescuing somebody, and that alone to them was remarkable and they want to be like that person. But today, the kind of police officers we have, either they are too intimidated or either the form of recruitment we have, you know, is not bringing out what would, you know, push trigger that aspect of their brain to say, you see, I've been employed to perform a certain task. But I'm sure we still have examples within this country who might have excelled. If you take, I mean, I usually don't want to mention names when it comes to, you know, policing and security in general. But at least we have, you know, even the Inspector General of Police, the current IGP. Is he not the one who was put in charge of this Syria, you know, to unearth, you know, what happened before this woman died, I think in the 80s or something. He's the one who, you know, in the 90s, who, you know, had to do that. We have the Kofi Boaches, we have, as if Veep Sinziri, that woman, who had to, she stood firm against some military officers in the Ning Pram Pram area or something. We have a good, even the current regional police commander in the Greater Accra region. You can mention them. These are people who, you know, it will be difficult for you to, it doesn't matter if you are a politician, it will be difficult for you to tell them that look elsewhere whilst crimes are being committed. But somehow we still have some of our police officers who, for one reason or the other, you know, would look elsewhere, would not want to, you know, be bothered in terms of, you know, what's going on. And so for me, I would say that the structure of the police, you know, administration itself would have to be looked at. Because then, if you realize you have to attain a certain rank to be sent to a certain region, I think we need to do away with that so that we are able to appoint operational officers. It is not every police officer who can, you know, who understands police, you know, field operations. And so if you took, let's say, someone who is not like the Kofi Boache,
but if you do not understand police field operations, why are you a police officer?
No, you know, we have medical officers, we have lawyers, and so let's say my brother Jantwa here is a lawyer. He would be, you know, legal. If he was in the police, he would be in their legal department. It doesn't mean that if you deploy him to the field, he would understand a bit of it, but not in terms of challenging hoodlums like we've seen in Kumasi and the rest. When Kofi Boache was in Kumasi, I don't usually want to mention him, in the Ashanti region. I lived in Ashanti region for some time. It used to be a hotbed for, you know, in the, call it the 90s, hoodlums, you know, the Budos and the rest, they take over street KJT and they were taking, you know, toll for themselves. But these things were stopped, I think, when Kofi Boache went there. And so we need people like him, the Greater Accra Regional Commander, you know, you can mention them so that if we can also find officers who haven't even attained that rank, but operationally, they are very good. You don't have to attain maybe a COP to be sent to Kumasi or to be sent to the northern region or any of these areas.
You just have to be operationally efficient.
You just have to be operationally efficient, then we deploy you. Because at the end of the day, I think that is also not helping the situation. So you put a commander there who is difficult to even relate with the patrol team. Relate with the guys who have to work and also tell the, you know, politicians right in the face that, you know, I'm not going to budge. You know the late Awuni. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't know Awuni in this country? I mean, he was somebody who would not, he doesn't care if you're a politician. He will deal with you. He went after the Langards. He went after all these people. And so what I'm saying is that we have the best police institution in the world. The only thing is that the interference is too much, and also even within their structure, where, you know, the ranking is used instead of looking at performance. For me, it's something that we have to look at.
Just a quick one. I'm trying to, as my friend was speaking, I was trying to assess where the actual challenge is. Is the challenge with the high ranks, or is the challenge with the rank and file of the police? And is there a disconnect in terms of how the big guys up there communicate with the rank and file?
What do you think?
Because as he was talking, you can see that there doesn't seem to be major challenges with the top brass. The challenges are with the rank and file. And yes, if you have a commander in a particular region, and that commander is strong enough and can communicate with the rank and file, they fall into line. Yeah. Like Kofi Boache, he understands the language of the rank and file.
We keep mentioning Kofi Boache.
Yes, because he brought a change to the Ashanti region. He understands the language of the rank and file. He understands the language of the criminals and understands the language of the upper rank people. So he was able to intermingle and make sure that when the rank and file were not happy, he had a way of handling them. Now, does that run through the whole police system? No. And if it doesn't, what can be done to make sure that this happens? Because we can take the police within their own ranking as a family. And really, there will be some police in there who are discontented with what is happening in terms of their accommodation, in terms of their salaries, in terms of all these things. Are they able to communicate this upward? And if they are not, what then do they do? Because then you find that some of them, not all of them, but some of them, now go into cahoots with the criminals and make sure that those things that they are not getting is satisfied. How now do you now weed them out if the person on top there does not understand what is happening below? And so there has to be some continuous process of communication, and we need to be able to interrogate that to make sure that the IGP and all the others understand the rank and file. Now, the question I then ask, how many IGPs, how many commanders have been field people, have been police on the beat, have been police who were traffic police stopping cars, have been police who were walking the streets before they got to where they got to? Once you haven't been in those shoes, when those people down there talk, you don't understand it.
You don't understand.
You don't understand it.
But,
so we need to look at it holistically and not only point fingers. Yes, the political angle is huge. I would say the political angle is 70% of the problems. And so we need to be able, going forward, because I give myself 40 years, I'll be out of this place.
Bobby Banzai,
I give myself 40 years, I'll be out of this place. But that doesn't mean the police won't live on. It will live on. So we need a strong police force so that law and order is maintained in this country.
Bobby Banzai, we have just a minute. We'll be taking a break. I want to ask a very simple question. Do you think at the heart of all of this is a firm decision to just disband these groups?
The so-called vigilante group?
Yes.
Oh, they will not be disbanded.
No, it's not possible.
They will not.
Is it not possible?
No.
By law? Or by
law, they are not supposed to exist in the first place. That is why I said for me, the baseline is political will. The politicians need them. They use
How do they need them?
Both ways. MPP headquarters. We were in this country when guns that even the police did not have were wielded internal. MPP, it was in the media. MPP headquarters. NDC also has their own version. I don't know whether they are the ones that they call the Azuka boys.
Azuka boys, yeah.
They are NDC. Yes. They also have their own version.
Yes.
So depending on who...
Now we have the Hawks.
See.
The new ones.
The new
ones,
the Hawks.
The Hawks, yes.
So depending... Because the truth is that if you are not in power, the police, which is the state institution, trained with taxpayers' money to provide security for every person, will not mind you.
Right. Bobby
So you must bring your own security. That is the problem.
Just to add, all these vigilantes things, they stem from independence. Why do I say that? Because during the CPP time, we had Veranda Boys. And with the UP time, they had they had a name for them. They also had their bit.
So they've been with us
and they've been with us for a long time. They've been with us for a long time.
Perhaps it's time we do something about them.
It's time we do something about them, because right now, weapons have also come into the fray.
Lots.
And it doesn't help any of us. And so the responsibility is on the people of Ghana and the political parties. I would have loved.
Right.
I would have loved
for
people
we need to take a break now.
Do demonstration.
Mr. Jantua, thank you very much. Mr. Jantua, Kwame Jantua is private legal practitioner. Bobby Barnes is also private legal practitioner. Adam Bonner is a security analyst. I'm Stephen Enti. This is New Day. You can join our discussions via WhatsApp 0560 70 70. You can hear us on radio as well, and we're streaming on Facebook and on 3news.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to A New Day, and following our heated discussions on the vigilante boys, Kandahar boys who besieged the Tamale Hospital, we'll digress a little bit away from that and talk about another pressing issue which has been on the table over the week. Government has announced a roadmap towards the lifting of the ban on small-scale mining. You would recall that when the MPP government took over power, it made it clear its intention to clamp down on illegal mining due to illegal and small-scale mining due to the horrible effect of environmental degradation that these activities, the activities of the Galamsey operators, have had on our environment. And the main reasons, the objectives, I beg your pardon, were to clean our waters and bring some form of sanity. Now, government is telling us that they've introduced some technology into the fray in order to help monitor the operations of Galamsey activities, small-scale and artisanal miners. But now there is a roadmap. Professor Frimpong Boateng, who is also the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology, made the announcement over this week. He's also the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee on Small-Scale Mining, that pretty shortly, by December, we should expect a lifting of the ban on small-scale mining. But the key question is this the right time, lifting of the ban on small-scale mining, despite the fact that a lot of jobs have been at stake and a lot of revenue loss? Many of these operators, small-scale miners, have been complaining that they procured huge sums of loans, which they've incurred debts. The government is also promising working with the banks in order to give them some reprieve. So how should we be tackling this? Should we just announce a blanket lift of the ban? I'll go back out and start with you, Bobby Banson, since I ended with you on the last discussion. Lifting the ban on small-scale mining sounds huge because of being a ban for some time. Government keeps rotating, shifting the post, saying we'll lift the ban in 6 months, 3 months, and it keeps going. Is it the right time for us to lift the ban as a country?
Stevie, not to drag us back, but I thought the blanket ban was a very lazy approach to solving the problem.
So bans don't solve problems like that.
And my disposition.
So your view is that the problem is not solved?
It's not solved. My disposition then was fortified listening to the professor outlining why they think it's time to lift the ban and what they are doing or what they will do now to solve the problem. These solutions were available to them when they put the ban.
From day one.
From day one.
They could have opted for those.
So what they are saying now is that they are going to monitor. The emphasis is monitoring. Because when you are giving a concession, the equipment you are going to use will depend on the kind of concession that you are giving. When you are giving a concession, the agreement, you are required by the agreement to what's it called? Is it recapture or the land that would be affected by your work? Reclaim. It's a requirement. The legal provisions were there. The issue was monitoring and enforcement. And all this lifting is what they said they are going to do now by bringing in drones to check each concession, what they had. Why couldn't we have done it long ago?
Introducing a software, Galam Stop.
All of that. We could have done this long ago. Now he said before the year will end. He cannot give timeline because there are things that they must put in place.
And that itself is vague, actually.
It's vague. So I heard him yesterday. He was saying originally they were supposed to have started the process on the 8th of August. And as of yesterday, or when I heard him, I think it was the 16th, because he said 8 days have gone by and we've not done anything. That is why he doesn't want to give timelines. But he's working on making sure that before the year will end, the ban would have been lifted. I think the ban in the first place was a very lazy approach
because all these solutions were available to them. I think the emphasis should be on monitoring. Listen, small-scale mining is not illegal.
Yeah.
It is not illegal. What is illegal is mining, one, without a license, and two, using a small-scale license to do large-scale mining, or using a large-scale license to do small-scale mining.
And so the problems were clearly outlined
from the beginning.
But the approach to tackling them were misplaced.
That is what I think. And agitation upon agitation, the economies that have been, the local economies that have been affected, Stephen, you have no idea.
Oh, this is about economics.
You have no idea. From people who were selling to the miners, to people who had machinery in town who were renting to them, to the foreign exchange that we were losing, because the gold, it was a huge source of foreign exchange. We've lost a lot when we could have solved these problems. I've already heard the chairman of the association saying that government is proposing they should pay for the monitoring. They will not. I've already heard that they should pay for the money. They will not, because before they are issued the lease or the concessions, they pay so much money. And it's the duty of the Minerals Commission, which has offices in every district, to do the monitoring. Now, one of the proposals is that periodically they must carry all their machinery to a center for physical inspection and monitoring. They said they will not do that. So that is why I believe the minister is short of giving deadlines.
But that itself is not practical.
That is what I'm thinking. He has not come, we've not seen all this. I'm saying, I heard the chairman talk about it. Maybe that is why the minister is short of giving deadlines, because he will need the cooperation of the small-scale miners before he can. Because if they say we will not pay, we will not do what you're asking us to do, they can't do anything. And they are under so much political pressure to lift this ban.
Political pressure. Mr. Janto, I see you are in deep reflection. What's on your mind? I mean, the lifting of the ban is here. And I heard expressions like, we'll put smiles on your faces at Christmas. The small-scale miners should be happy, shouldn't they?
Well, I'll start from the comment by the president that Galamsey is not going to succeed under his watch. Now, Stephen, if it didn't happen that small-scale mining and illegal small-scale mining did not enter our water bodies, will we not still be sitting here whilst Galamsey went on? Why do I say that? Because over the years, governments have come and gone, and this practice has been there. This practice has been there. Now, whether to ban or not to ban, maybe initially we needed to put something in force to sit back and see how we would handle this thing. Now, the ban seems to be continuous. It seems to be going on. The people who my friend was talking about in terms of the added businesses that these activities helped, should we say that the fact that, and I believe that illegal mining was more than actual small-scale mining, should we say the fact that the work that was done was illegal, and because that illegal work has stopped, it has affected other people's business? It means whatever they were doing illegal, the selling of things to those illegal people is illegal. If it is stopped, it is stopped. You see, because of lack of jobs in this country, anybody comes up with selling bread in the middle of the road is good. It's illegal. Anybody stands up and builds a kiosk in the middle of the motorway because there are no jobs. Oh, they are getting some money to feed themselves. It becomes legal. What is illegal is illegal.
So we look on as a country whilst illegitimate issues take root.
How did Galamsey take root? How did Galamsey take root that it now got to our water bodies, and we had Galamsey FPSOs in the middle of the water bodies, dredging sand and mud from beneath the rivers of our water bodies. We have sat quietly. And for me, successive governments and governments of today, although the MPP government is trying to do something about it, it's not quick enough.
You think all of this is window dressing?
Well, it could not be window dressing, but do you know how much money we spent so far in the tax force? Has anybody come to account to Ghanaians? We put the tax force in place. This is how much we spent. It's probably over and above our budget. How do we go on? You see, there are certain things in this country that is not only the governing party that should sit and discuss it. Put everybody together, those within and those without. Let's sit together and deal with it, because Galamsey affects everybody. Galamsey person will tell you, I'm a small scale miner. He won't say I'm Galamsey, I'm a small scale miner. And it boils down to those who give the license. They know that this person is going to do X, Y, Z. Do they monitor? People don't have jobs. Create jobs for monitors, people who monitor this thing. Get them out there. Pay them well. Because if you don't pay them well, they also get addicted to the kinds of money coming out of these operations. Pay them well.
And there's good money.
And there's good money in there. But structure it in such a way that people can earn good money out of it. And those who want to do things illegally, make sure that they are put in the can. Make sure that they go to court. Make sure that the law works. Make sure that people see that, hey, if you go in there, trouble.
You'll be in trouble.
Because you get foreigners coming into this country. They pass the ports, don't they? They come through Kotoka, don't they? When they come, do we ask them, what are you coming to do? Do we ask them? Do we follow them? You think in the UK, or even in America, or any other European country, you come with maybe 500,000 pounds or dollars in your briefcase. You think they don't see it? They'll see it. They'll let you pass. But the moment you pass immigration, they start following you. Because what do they want to do? They want to see the source of where it's going to. Do we do that? So we see hordes of Chinese people coming in at our ports here. What do? We stamp their passport, they go. Should it not tinker in our mind that, why are all these Chinese people coming in here? And try and follow them. And then in the end, what happens? We go and catch them in our forest areas. We go and catch them in Galamsey. And then we now try to arrest them. We now try to take them to court. And it creates a problem between our countries and China.
And their countries. Adam Bona.
Sorry, before you move. Yeah. He made a comment. You know the Chinese woman who was accused as being the king?
Where is she today?
And it was a friend of mine passed the comment some time ago that she's still walking around in Kumasi, and very soon they are going to lift the ban. We should see. And it's happening. Nothing has happened to her. Nothing. So before they lift the ban, they should tell us what has happened to her. Because it was obvious. Every person who was arrested mentioned her name. Every Chinese who was arrested said she recruited them. And she was caught with guns. And, you know, it was obvious.
She must be very powerful.
Nothing.
But Stephen, you see, we don't learn. Why was Ghana called the Gold Coast? Why was Ghana called the Gold Coast? Ghana was called the Gold Coast because gold was found here. And the gold here is not only in the south, it stretches the whole length and breadth of Ghana. It stretches. So from day one, we should have been able to put the laws in place to make sure that the right thing is done.
That we do not only protect
the
natural resource, but we protect the environment as well.
Yes, we can protect the environment and structure it in such a way that people cannot do illegal mining. What have we done? Nothing.
Mr. Bona, do you think we haven't done anything?
No, we haven't done much. Yes, apart from, the ban,
we all agree that bans don't really...
Yeah, they don't really work. I was expecting that over the period, we should have put in structures to ensure that, you know, before the ban is lifted, certain, you know, structures have been put in place. But I'm yet to see. I was expecting to see a Galamsey court, for instance. We have a motor court. And so when I, you know, violate any of our traffic offenses, there's a particular court they take me to. And it is quick, swift. Guilty or not guilty, I say no guilty, and the judge decides that I'm guilty. You pay a fine. But we are still putting these Galamseyers who are suspected Galamseyers who are arrested through the normal courts. And so we don't even probably have, you know, judges who are trained to deal with these issues. We don't have them. And so you would hear, you know, statements from the Operation Vanguard team, like, oh, we have arrested 1,000 so and so, and less than 10% have been prosecuted. And so then you should know that we should have, first of all, there are two things. We should have put in the structures before the ban, or after the ban, we put in the structures. Now we are being told it's going to be lifted. I haven't heard about Galamsey Court. And so we are still going to have a situation like, you know, Bans, the lawyer said, that, you know what, we have this lady who is notorious in terms of Galamsey, who is still walking free in the Ashanti region, and probably bringing in people we cannot, we don't know of, because we don't probably have these courts who understand what goes into Galamsey. And so they will be treating every, you know, issue that comes to them like, you know, that's some civil case or some other case. But we should, I think the Chief Justice can do Ghanaians a good, you know,
during at the height of the fight, she set up specific courts to do, but those were temporary. They were not like you have the permanent motor court.
So let's have a permanent thing as part of the structure. Secondly, I did hear the Minister of the Environment, Frimpong Boateng, Prof saying that, oh, the Galamseyers, their trucks would have to be carried to one location for, you know, inspection. You know, tracking devices or electronic devices to be put on them. This is where sometimes I think that our leaders sometimes consultation, we need to do a lot of consultation, because then what type of device are we putting in? What type of monitoring are we doing? If you go to the US, there is mining in the US. But you see, the regime, what you go through to be able to mine is so rigorous that you will not attempt to mine.
Right.
My brother Jantua did mention about, you know, the foreigners coming in, especially the Chinese are notorious for Galamsey. They come in, we see them. This day and age, you and I know that when you are issued a visa, that visa reflects in all the, if it's a British visa, it reflects in all their embassies, including the Home Office. And so they can decide to revoke the visa in, let's say, in Kuwait. If you are in Ghana, it can be revoked in Kuwait. And wherever you pass and you want to board an aircraft, you are going to be stopped from flying. When these people come in, are we able to follow them? We are not able to. And so, for instance, they are issued with, let's say, 90-day, you know, visa that does not allow them to work with those visas.
And they could be here working for 10 years.
They are here and they work for years without anyone kind of asking them to leave. Do we even have a database to tell us that this year we had this number of people coming in? And when you talk about, you know, trying to monitor using drones, I would want to know, what type of drones are we using? Are they drones that are going to, you know, drones are not, these are, you know, remotely manned. What type of drones? Is it drones that have infrared cameras? Because most of these miners mine in the night. And so you are talking about probably drones that we cannot buy. You are talking about the drones that the Americans use when they have to go and probably bomb, you know, some of these, you know,
targets they have.
Targets. Can we purchase them? But if you are talking about these drones that these musicians, these small boys, some of these boys use, you are driving past and they are flying some drone. Is that the type of drones we are talking about? I don't think so. Because if you want to, you know, monitor this type of work, you have to have, you know, you need to even get the public involved. Because first of all, I would want a center. I'm sure you know in Britain there are cameras that allows me to go and log in and check certain things. I would want a situation where I sit here in Accra and I'm able, there's a facility I can log on to know what is going on in some of these areas. That way, those who are committing, who are probably mining illegally, would be able to, would know that even if the police is not watching, somebody else might be watching, that person would report.
Right.
We haven't put in all those structures.
Mr. Bona, I'll have to cut you, and then so we go back and hear from Professor Frimpong Boateng earlier when that announcement was made, and then we'll get back and continue with our discussion.
There are fewer people working on the land, doing alluvial mining than before. And the problem we have now is not with the small-scale miners, but with some officials who are supposed to know better, but are doing the wrong things. Also, because of the effectiveness of the Operation Vanguard and the compliance of the small-scale miners, there are fewer people working on land. That is why most of them are being sponsored to work on the rivers, because they know that we have some deficiencies policing the rivers. And therefore, you see more activities on the water bodies. That is why, from hence, we are going to intensify our efforts on the water bodies so that we get rid of those who want to pollute our water bodies. As of now, although the ban has not been lifted yet, and I promise you it will be lifted, when exactly, we'll all discuss it later on.
Right, so Professor Frimpong Boateng there. I've got a lot of your messages coming in. I'll read them pretty shortly, so you all get a feel of contributing to our show. So, Adam Bona, I cut you off so we could hear him and put it in context. You think that the main problem is monitoring?
It's monitoring. It's monitoring. First of all, if you have an excavator,
whether we use drones or software like Galam Stop, the bottom line is effective monitoring.
Galam Stop, what is Galam Stop going to do? My mother in the village, what does she understand
by Galam Stop?
By Galam Stop. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
I do.
And so, you want to put in a facility for proper monitoring. Even with this Operation Vanguard, some of us actually spoke against it and said, you know, this thing is not going to work. Because the truth is that if you have to go to, let's say, you know, my wife who is from the eastern region where, you know, the Intranai area where a lot of mining goes on, illegal mining goes on. And I'm told some of these areas, when the Operation Vanguard team is approaching, they tip them off. Who tips them off? I wouldn't want to put it that out there.
Community members.
Exactly.
Because they are beneficiaries.
Exactly. So my point is that if Prof wants to do, Prof and the team and the government wants to do proper work, a lot of consultation, because I'm tempted to think that probably our leaders don't understand what it means to monitor, what they need to put in place to monitor. They don't. I have heard the Prof say we'll put in tracking device. We have different types of tracking devices that do different things. Do they understand them? Or it's going to be business as usual, where you put in a device.
But do you get the sense that a whole ministry and interministerial task force will not have a better understanding of the technical requirements of some of these devices and
yes, I do.
Implements.
Yes, I do. I'm being very, yes, I do. I do have a sense that they, because if they did, to put in these devices, they should have started this process the very day they said the ban had been put in place. Because you have to pilot them. Take off, because you know what, these devices, we have about 3 different types of tracking devices. That would have, we have the one that Osama bin Laden were using, that uses strictly satellites. It is not on any GPS where the GPS would have to take its information from a cell site. You go to most of these big places and you don't have a signal. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. You go to, let's say you go into the middle of nowhere, no signal. So what is the understanding? If you put in a device that writes on, what do you call it, GPS, cell site. Sorry, you will not know this machinery is dredging or this machinery has been moved to this location. And so we need to interrogate. I don't want to put out all the information, but I think that our leaders would have to do a lot more consultation, because this Galamsey thing, you know, came in and it became widespread because of, like my colleague said, unemployment. Most of the young people felt this is the only way to make money. And so we need to regulate it so that we don't have to begin to import water. We don't have to begin to, already we are importing timber. And so for me, I think that my appeal to our leaders is that what type of monitoring are they going to put in place? Because I've only heard about, oh, carry all the, if you carry them there and you put in the devices, what checks, I mean, what are you putting in place? And usually, you know the way we do things in this country, yes, we talk about it, then somehow it's gone. And so we are going to try to do something and it won't work. The drones, for instance, what drones? Are we doing drones that will do?
You sound not too hopeful about
No. You see, when it comes to, when technology, one thing, I mean, I am a more technological person. And so it's one area that I'm more vested in when it comes to deployment in terms of technology. I would have wanted that you have towers that probably have, you know, thermal imaging CCTVs that are able to, you know, go around, view what is going on. Someone is sitting maybe in a crowd in the community monitoring, where you can go and check what is going on. But we haven't done any of this.
This is big investment and it will take quite a while.
No, you see, that is why I said from day one, when they said ban, they should have put in all these structures, begin to erect towers all over the place to ensure that, you see, when the drones fail to work, can you fly? These drones, some of them cannot fly in some of these communities because of the place is windy, there's so much rains, and these people mind whether there is rain or there is shine. You understand me? But you see, usually you have people bring proposals, I can do this, I can do this. We invest the money only to realize that, no, we didn't run this thing well. The piloting was not done well. So for me, I think that Galamsey is a big issue. The president did ban it. Well, I mean, just like Banson said, we should have put in a bit of checks to do it. But anyway, it was done. And I was happy because at the end of the day, we needed to put in the structures. But have we put in any structure?
We're not sure of that. Yes.
Stephen, you see,
we need to take a break and then continue with the discussion.
You are making a point that clouds the minds of Ghanaians. And what is that point?
The cost
money
involved, yeah.
Money. But when you look at the impact,
yes,
the money is nothing.
It's zero.
It's zero. And so, for me, I would have wished we set up a structure, a network system that is only for Galamsey.
Yes.
Get a building, get all the structures you can in that building to do the monitoring.
And we can do that.
We can do it.
We have what it takes.
We can do it.
We have the financial muscle.
We are.
Steve,
Listen. The monies that the Bank of Ghana is raising bonds.
You need a quarter of that.
For bailouts. It is now increased our GDP by $1 billion. Bailout. Compared to environmental degradation from Galamsey, we will all suffer. Water bodies, we understand, are all muddy. Will we not suffer? Yesterday, I heard on the news, there's a certain community in Ghana who are drinking mud.
In the Volta region.
In the Volta
region. For what I saw it and I thought,
and
so is this
so we are
Ghana?
saying because of money, we won't do the right thing. Put the money aside. If we have to spend $1 billion to get this infrastructure in place, let's do it. So that once and for all, we can monitor. Look, they are going into our forest reserves.
Monitoring. Yeah, we're monitoring. Nothing.
Even in
bauxite,
addition, what it would do, it would help us monitor bauxite, manganese mining, all these things. To help us do all those things.
And even help fight crime.
Yes, even help fight crime too. So if we have to spend the money to put it in place, let's spend the money. However, let's sit down and get the minds in there to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And I do agree when Adam says pilot, it's key. Because what does the pilot do? It brings out the challenges and the problems you might face doing it on a countrywide level. for a certain duration of time and put it in, and the police should now enforce. The moment we are able to identify that Etiwa, there are some people in there, quickly you have the task force go in there and do what they have to do.
Right. This is still New Day, Saturday edition. I'm Stephen Enti. I still have with me Adam Bona, Kwame Jantua, and Bobby Banson joining us with the discussion. We'll read your messages when we return from the break and shift the focus to something else on our agenda. Welcome back to A New Day, and we've been having a very interesting discussion on Galamsey, and some of you have been sending your messages all through since the morning, since the beginning of the show. I'll read through some of them quickly. This one says, Mr. Host, take positioning when we assumed office. Good morning, Mr. Host. Take positioning when we assumed office. This was said by a leading member of the MPP. If vigilante groups such as Kandahar, Invisible Forces, etc. are chasing our CEOs from their office, then they're responding to calls by their leaders. The security should arrest all these Kandahar boys so that the leaders of MPP will stop using unpalatable language for their supporters to emulate. This is from Tanko Abubakar Shukura. And from Correct Score, Zakaria Sunyai says, lies, gossip and hypocrisy are tools of expose. This government can never be trusted. One district, one factory. A factory in existence since 2001 is inaugurated as one district, one factory. A farmer cultivating his vegetable is classified as one district, one factory. Exposition number 2. Right, we'll go on and on and on, but thank you very much. Still, the inconvertibly Mahama will eject the inelegant Akufo-Addo, Bawumia inept leadership. Okay, so those were your views there. And this one says, good morning, and good morning to His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, wherever you are this morning, for good work you're doing for Ghana. First time in the history of Ghana for a president to fulfill almost all his campaign promises in less than 2 years. Indeed, by 2020, NDC will have nothing. We'll have nothing to campaign on. Ghana is working again. Right, so these are the views. The MPP thinks different, NDC thinks different. Good morning. Whether non-existent or not, he is not aware of the non-executive or not. Was he not aware of the issues? This is in connection with Dr. Mensa Otabo, I reckon. Board directors take decisions for management to implement. Haven't he contributed or taken decision for the bank before? Capital UT Bank. Bank of Ghana should give us a break. This is from Edwin Achimota. And what an impunity listening to this so-called Kandahar boys. Well, we felt same too. This is from Kafui Boche, from Kwabuchi. Ashale Boche, I guess. Aziz Adongla from Wa, you say, what happened at the Tamale Teaching Hospital is unfortunate, ridiculous, unlawful, and barbaric. Thank you very much. Good morning to Chairman in Wa. This is Aziz Adongla. Thank you very much. And this one also from Aaron Bebaku Kokomisa. Your message is very long. I won't be able to read all, but I'll summarize. You say, my point is that politicians must be very careful, especially those political aspirants that move down to the grassroots level must be very careful how they communicate with this youth, and they must not influence the youth to fight. You started by saying, I don't think if our laws are fully enforced, we will have or experience high level of indiscipline as we're experiencing. Aaron, thank you very much. And this one from Sir Kabis New Edubiasi Zongo. You say Vice President Bawumia has cut sword for $45 million housing project for the police staff. Meanwhile, former President Mahama's $180 million 1,500 housing unit built under the Seglemi housing project near Chopoli have remained uncompleted. Well, that's Ghana for you. Good morning. I sincerely believe what the youth group did wasn't right. and they shouldn't have done that. This is from Abdul Tamale. There's so many issues bedeviling the facility that needs investigations. We have a lot more of your messages. You can send them 0560 70 70. Those of you listening to us on radio, this is New Day Saturday edition. Let's get back to the studio. We're being joined by Dr. Lloyd Mensah with the University of Ghana Business School joining us. Doc, good morning, and thank you very much for coming.
Morning,
we were discussing Galamsey, wrapping up on the Galamsey just when you stepped in, and you gave me a hint that you grew up in Takwa. You feel that all of this anti-Galamsey operations by government has not yielded any results, mainly because this is an economic matter also?
Yes, they've not, because there is a kind of a social orientation and then the climate aspect of it. For me, the government is doing its best, but I believe that there's more to do. Now, I had the Minister for Environment
Science and Technology
talking about sending back the escalators and all those. I grew up in those environments, and those times we're not using escalators. Excavators.
Yeah.
So we used to use our shoulders and everything. And I can tell you, for some time I stopped going there because my education sent me out, and I had to come back. Now when I got there, I saw these excavators on the grounds. And trust me, the speed at which the environment was being degraded
was alarming.
So I even told my wife that we were not using machines in operating. And trust me, something, to dig a hole to a level where we can have a touch of maybe diamonds or gold, sometimes it can take you about 3 months. So the pace is very slow. But now, the same thing we're supposed to use 3 months to do, they do it within 3 hours.
3 hours.
Get to a level. So I saw the speed. I said, we'll get to a point where this is going to be a problem. And I believe that the structures in place for monitoring mining has been there always. I used to remember when the government used to have security, and the Ghana Consolidated Diamonds Limited also used to have their own security. And trust me, those people knows the environment very well, more than the so-called what's the name of the new group they formed?
Vanguard.
The Vanguard, Operation Vanguard that they've sent on the ground. Now, before you set off, we know where you are, the route that you are going to take. So traditionally, the people knows the area more than. And I was asking myself, drones, we're going to place drones. Drones, how would the drones monitor this degradation? What kind of sophisticated drone are we going to put across?
What are you going to monitor at all?
And also, I heard him talking about, the kind of a tracker. Now, the tracker can just detect, where the machine is. But then, as to the pace at which the environment is being degraded,
or what the machine is actually doing,
yes, it's quite questionable. So I think, for now, they are opening up. I can tell you that they are losing the grounds, because most of these activities forms part of the living of the people. The people, that is what they depend on. In fact, some of them, they educate themselves through it. Myself, that is the process I went through. I did Galamsey all the way from my JSS to the university level. You are an experienced miner. So that forms part of the living. And trust me, the livelihood over there as we speak now is different ball game altogether. I can tell you, if you go to Akwetia and its environs, you can easily catch up with poverty. Poverty has become solid. And you see, I
like that expression, poverty has become solid.
Oh yes, it's something
very
that
tangible.
Exactly, very tangible. It's clear, on the ground. So I believe that, they are sending them back to work, but they should go and use their shoulders. Go back to the old days, what we were doing. Our grandfathers were mining. Our great grandfathers, in fact, they direct us where we can easily get diamonds, where we can easily get gold.
And they'll even give you signs.
Yes, they give you signs.
The soil looks.
Exactly. So, for now, I believe that we should go back to the old days and stop using the machines. And then, we should use manpower. That will slow down the pace at which the environment is being degraded. But trust me, as we speak now, for the past 1.5 years, that Galamsey has been banned, okay, it has economic repercussions in the areas, and at the same time that the target that we're trying to achieve, I believe we've not gotten there.
Do you also support the fact that the assertion that the ban in the first place was unnecessary if monitoring systems were enhanced?
We had the monitoring system. We had mining, inspectors in those areas. If you go, there are existing mining inspectors. But the question is, how are they being resourced to monitor? Because these are people who come on the grounds and you give them a small token and they go away. Continue doing your mining.
They don't even have the
I remember
vehicles.
between Kede through my hometown Takrase to Oda, right? We were digging under a railway line, which, railway project is oncoming. Those are the days. Yeah. And we know railway has future. But then these guys will come. Because maybe they are not being paid well, you give them something small and they go away. You understand? So the realities on the ground are completely different compared to what we think we can sit in Accra and then send back to those people there.
Let me ask you, listening to you, are you then saying that Galamsey and small-scale mining is the only profession that can sustain the people in that community?
Well, you see,
should we not find
for now,
alternatives?
For now,
but once the alternatives are not there,
well, we need to create the alternatives.
For now,
do we not to create the alternatives?
That is what they live on. There are other things they do, farming and all those, but they don't see it to be lucrative as it's supposed to be. I was fortunate to use my money to educate myself. For them, it's a living. They know when they spend their money today.
So who buys?
Who buys? There are buyers over there. Their buyers is a business.
But I think
we have chains of transactions that goes on. But trust me, all the transactions that will go on will end up in somebody's house.
So I asked the question then: the chiefs, what were their responsibility when you were doing it? What were they supposed to do? How did they come into the whole?
You're putting him under the spotlight.
I need to understand it. I'm trying to find how we can solve this thing once and for all in terms of jobs in the community.
You ban such an activity, which has been a living all this while for the people
for years,
for generations, right? You should look at parallel side how you can win them off it. Now, these people have been denied of what they are entitled to. I remember when I was growing up, we had these packages from the Ghana Consolidated Diamond Limited, as every household should have a child that can go to school. Do you get it? So it's more or less taking the social aspect of it. They know very well the mining will deplete over time. But trust me, we never saw anything of that sort from the various households that we live in other places. So we had to resort to the Galamsey itself to take care of us. Now, I will not go there to go and do Galamsey again. But I hope during that time, if they were to invest in people like us, those times, they should have had multiples of what? Some of us. For which, you can stop Galamsey now, because at the end of the day, you've replaced the mining with education. You understand? But that never happened. And this is what? Something that is ongoing.
Right.
It would be difficult to break that chain.
So that can happen today, can't it?
It can happen. It can happen.
Steve, sorry. I think we are blurring the lines between
I wanted us to shift
small-scale mining and Galamsey.
Yeah. That's right.
Small-scale mining is legal.
Yes. But we're talking about the illegal
Galamsey is mining without license.
Yes.
All along,
you see the legal,
those doing the Galamsey, they know that they had to apply for permits. The conditions that the mineral, and I have gone through the process of obtaining permits for clients doing small-scale mining. There is no variation. What they require you to produce if you want to do small-scale mining
the same for Galamsey.
is the same if you come and say, mine is, let's say, only 4 acres.
Yeah.
They will not mine you. So the people don't have the means to satisfy the conditions for small-scale mining. So they have to go and do Galamsey. And when the war started, they offered, they said, listen, have a regime for us. We are ready to submit ourselves to regulation. They said, no way, stop it. That is the problem. It's not as if, like he said, generations have been doing this. There was, you mentioned the chiefs. There was a scenario in the Eastern region
where somebody who claimed that he had used Galamsey money to build a public toilet facility.
Sure.
And everybody for free. Everybody there is enjoying it. He has a scholarship scheme where children there, through the Galamsey, he pays school fees for them for free. So they know what they are doing is not right. But the Minerals Commission and the government agencies have failed them because consistently they have approached them, give us a regime. Look at what is happening in Obuasi. You take the land from them, give it to large-scale mining. They cannot mine all. Yeah. The land is there. They say, don't go there.
And some of them, and the so-called small-scale miners, what they're doing is that they take the bigger space and sublet it to the Galamsey operators.
Yeah, because they don't have the machines. I had always asked the Minerals Commission.
They get a license from the Minerals Commission.
Most of these machines that come in,
to the Galamsey operators.
The washing plants, the excavators.
That's right. I hear that is what they are doing.
The machines that come in, the mining, the washing plant, especially the tractors, the excavators, they come in under the guise of being used for agricultural purposes. Yes. And when it happens, if you write that as the purpose, it is duty free.
I see.
They don't pay. They don't pay duty.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is how they import them, that it is for agricultural purposes, so they don't pay duty. They end up transporting them from Tema straight to Akwetia or the mining site.
Sure.
So they are doing it for free.
Nobody monitors.
Nobody monitors.
So if the government, in the name of small-scale mining, having license and doing the right thing, make sure you recover the environment.
Yes.
That is what the license says.
So, gentlemen, I think we have to shift. We have to move away from the Galamsey issue. I know that this is a big deal for livelihoods, sustenance of livelihoods. But let's shift our focus to and a big deal to Ghana. I agree. Let's shift our focus to the Bank of Ghana's decision to revoke the licenses of Unibank and smaller. And well, Unibank was a bigger one, but Royal Bank, Beach Bank, Sovereign Bank, and Construction Bank were all consolidated under this directive. Now, the two people who were mentioned and heavily criticized, Reverend Dr. Mensa Otabil has been speaking. Prince Kofi Amwar, being the founder of UT, has also been speaking on the matter. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we will delve a little more into this discussion. Please stay with us. Right, so like I told you, following the revocation of the licenses of Unibank, Royal Bank, Beige Bank, Sovereign Bank, and Construction Bank, there have been calls for prosecution of bank shareholders and officials who were involved in this. Parliament's Finance Committee has also indicated that it will open a probe into the collapse of these banks. Already, Prince Kofi Amwar has been speaking, and Reverend Dr. Mensa Anamwa Otabil has also issued a statement indicating that his role in the bank, in one of the banks, was a non-executive position. He's being heavily criticized for that statement. So there are quite a number of issues on the collapse of the banks that we want to talk about. Dr. Lord Mensa is here. Dr. Mensa, the collapse of the banks, I'm sure there are many who saw this as inevitable. There were the signs for the banking industry perhaps were clear, but not for the rest of the consumer population. For you, did the collapse come as a surprise in the first place? And would you say that the subsequent actions that the Bank of Ghana took were in the right direction?
Stephen, point of order. I was just going through my computer. I've just seen something here. It says former Secretary General Kofi Annan is dead.
Wow.
It says the Ghanaian died at a hospital in Switzerland Saturday morning after short illness. Former Deputy Health Minister Dr. Victor Bampu confirmed it to Joy News. He was 80.
Okay, wow.
What? Right. Wow. Yes. The news is all over. Mr. Jantua, yeah. So we're hearing information now that former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan passed away this morning. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, Mr. Jantua. So very Right, sad news we're getting is the demise of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. We're hearing reports that he passed away this morning in Switzerland at a hospital. It has been confirmed by close family sources that he indeed passed on. In our subsequent presentations, we'll be bringing you more details of that. So if you've just joined us, we're hearing reports that have been confirmed of the death of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan at age 80. He passed away in Switzerland this morning, and close family sources have confirmed to us that indeed he has passed on. Earlier in the week, there were reports of a hoax of his death circulating on social media, which were denied that indeed he passed on. But a week down, it's now confirmed that Kofi Annan indeed this morning passed away after a short illness. May his soul rest in peace. Gentlemen, so it's a bad news we're getting, though, that Kofi Annan passed away, and very illustrious son of Ghana, a very fine gentleman, I must say. I know that this is a very difficult moment for his family, his wife in Switzerland, and his child, and the whole of Ghanaians, really. But Dr. Mensah, we were doing a discussion on the banks, but I'll give you a couple of minutes to, if you have something to say about Kofi Annan, so we can continue, so it doesn't look like we disrespectfully brush off his memory.
Yeah, for me, I think he's illustrious son of Ghana, and also being an advancement boy. I mean, he's been somebody that we look up to, and he's been a chancellor at the university where I work, and so I would say may his soul rest in peace, and he's contributed his quota, and in life, I mean, you can do your part, and then when God calls you, I mean, you exit. I would say that. May his soul rest in peace. May his soul rest in peace.
Mr. Jantua, breaking news, not very good news to hear this morning, but Mr. Annan has endeared himself very well to the whole world.
Politicians should emulate him. Ghanaian politicians should be able to emulate him. I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say. He brought the stature of Ghana up when he was UN Secretary General. And he made sure that he did what was right by the country.
And he brought a certain finesse and class to the role.
It brought Ghanaians into the limelight. Anywhere you pass, Secretary General is from Ghana. Just like the Rawlinses of this world, the Nkrumahs of this world. It brought Ghana into a different dimension. So it is sad we've lost an illustrious son. But I do not know what's happening this year. We are losing quite a lot of our illustrious people. So maybe it's the age, but the celebrated poet, what's his name? Atukwe Okai. He also is gone. So I hope we learn from some of these illustrious sons of Ghana, so that at least those coming up would have role models to follow. May his family be consoled of this loss. Ghana has lost
Ghana
a real
indeed
gem.
has lost. Bobby Banson.
The
news just struck us all dumb, really. We were discussing heated Galamsey issues, and Dr. Mensah brought a new dimension to funding his education with Galamsey. We should get the police to say
my respect for Kofi Annan shot up when I first visited the Genocide Museum in Rwanda. The role he played. He was UN Under-Secretary during that time. Was amazing. They have write-ups, his speeches, and I stood there and I felt so proud as a Ghanaian that in another country they are celebrating him for the role he played before, during, and after, where he said he thinks he is personally responsible for what happened in Rwanda,
and he will make sure that every resource available to him, he would bring it to bear. And the people understand and appreciated him. And I think Ghana has lost a gem. I am happy that when he resigned, or when his tenure ended from the UN, he came back home and then did what he had to do to contribute locally to the development of the country by taking up that post at the University of Ghana. I think that he would be well missed and remembered, and he's left a legacy that I'm sure that generations after will still have something.
Indeed, he will be well missed. Mr. Kofi Annan was born on 8th of April 1938. He is a Ghanaian diplomat who served as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations from January of 1997 to December 2006. Ms. Annan and the UN were the co-recipients of the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize. He is also the founder and chairman of the Kofi Annan Foundation, as well as chairman of the elders of an international organization founded by Nelson Mandela. He was born in Kumasi. You may know that Ms. Annan went on to study economics at the famous Macalester College, International Relations from the Graduate Institute in Geneva, and management at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Ms. Annan joined the United Nations in 1962. He worked for the World Health Organization in the Geneva office. He went on then to work in several capacities at the UN headquarters, including serving as the Under Secretary General, like Mr. Bobby Banson rightly mentioned, of the United Nations for Peacekeeping. This was between 1992 and December of 1996. So if you've just joined us on New Day, the breaking news we're getting is the death of Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, very illustrious Ghanaian. He passed away, we're told, this morning, early Saturday, in Switzerland, where he lives with his wife. We've had confirmation from family close sources that indeed he passed away. May his soul rest in peace. Right, so breaking news is that Kofi Annan has passed away, and this is New Day, Saturday edition. We were discussing the issues and challenges with the banking sector before the breaking news came in, and we'll continue to wrap up with that discussion. So, Dr. Mensah, this came as... You
never made me.
Yes, I beg your pardon. I apologize strongly. I never made you comment on yes. Kofi Annan, so please, Kofi Annan has passed away.
Yes. I think there is a student from Infantapim, a former student. Is it you?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you need to protest the write-up.
They didn't add
That's
the difference if you had gone to
all that they read, all that you read.
Advanced didn't come in.
It's important.
I mentioned it.
Yeah, he did. And so it is through him, maybe other people will know if you don't already know. But I think, not that I think, Kofi Annan was a great man. I met him once, many years ago, in a program in London, many years ago, I think, yeah, in London. And this is somebody who humbly, you know, once he gets to know, he looks at, I think Ghanaians, probably you can easily identify another Ghanaian. I mean, he came around, shook hands with me many years ago. And if you look at him, someone who rose to the level of a UN Secretary General, you know, he came home, you know, very often, and he interacted with our leaders. I think there were times when he needed to caution the political leaders in this country to let them know that, you know, it is just one Ghana, and so we are an envy to the world. And so for me, probably I would say Kofi Annan never dies, because most of the things he did would forever live on. And I think one of the panelists did mention that the current politician, the current crop of politicians have a lot to learn from him, even though he's passed on. Unfortunately, you know, condolences to the family, and then probably to all of us, and probably the entire world, because this is a news that probably some of us weren't expecting. And so I hope that we put things in place because chances are that we are going to have a lot of people descending onto this country, you know, as is passed. So this is what I can say about
Right. Thank you very much, Adam Bonner. So if you've just joined us, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan has passed away. We have had confirmation from close family sources about his passing. We're told that he died in early morning on Saturday. Ms. Annan, like I told you, was born in 1938. He is a Ghanaian diplomat who served as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations from January of 1997 to December of 2001. Ms. Annan and the UN were co-recipients of the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize. He's the founder and chairman of the Kofi Annan Foundation, as well as the chairman of the Elders of an international organization founded by Nelson Mandela. He was born in Kumasi. He went to study economics at Macalester College, but before that he went to Evansville School.
He also went to KNUST.
He went to KNUST. He did, yes, he went to...
Yes.
He was a chancellor. He studied international relations from the Graduate Institute of Geneva Management at the Macalester, MIT, actually. And he joined the UN in 1962, working for the World Health Organization Geneva office. He went on to work in several capacities at the UN headquarters, including serving as the Under-Secretary General. He has done quite tremendous for the UN and Ghana and the world at large as Under-Secretary General from 1992 to December of 1996. We're working the telephone lines to speak with the former Deputy Minister of Health, Victor Bampo, who is in Switzerland, to speak to us on this development. Ms. Annan, as you may recall, was appointed as Secretary General of the UN on December 13 of 1996 by the Security Council, and he was later confirmed by the General Assembly, making him the first office holder to be elected from the UN staff itself. He was re-elected for a second term in 2001 and was succeeded as Secretary General on 1st January of 2007. So the breaking news coming in is that Kofi Annan has passed away. We're working the telephone lines, so we'll be bringing you some developments from the announcement of his death. We're hoping to speak to Victor Bampo, former Deputy Health Minister, on who is in Switzerland also on the death of Kofi Annan. May his soul rest in peace. Our condolences to his family at this very difficult moment. The entire Ghanaian population has lost a great man. We'll take a break here and soothe off our emotions. We'll be right back. Right, so news coming in is that Kofi Annan has passed on. The former UN Secretary General, where we have reports passed on this morning, it's Saturday, in Switzerland, Geneva, where he lives with his wife. And you may know that he was born here in Ghana in 1938. He served as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations from January 1997 to 2006. Ms. Annan and the UN were the co-recipients of the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize. He is the founder and chairman of the Kofi Annan Foundation, as well as the chairman of the Elders of International Organization founded by Nelson Mandela. He was born in Kumasi and he attended Evansville School, KNUST as well, and he went on to study economics at Macalester College and international relations from the Graduate Institute, Geneva, and management at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mr. Annan joined the United Nations in 1962. He worked for the World Health Organization also in Geneva, and he went on to work in several capacities at the UN headquarters in New York, including serving as the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations for Peacekeeping between March of 1992 and December 1996. He was appointed UN Secretary General on 13th of December 96 by the Security Council and later confirmed by the General Assembly. He became then, by that confirmation, the first office holder to be elected from the UN staff itself. He had a second term, was re-elected in 2001 and later was succeeded by January 1st of 2007. I know that we were about to discuss banking issues and the challenges of the banking sector, but in due reverence to the man and mourning such a great loss, we would like to spend the rest of the few minutes rather on remembering some of his legacies, so that we will push the discussion on the banking industry to another day, unfortunately. So, Mr. Janswa, I'll bring it to you, really. Ms. Annan, I mean, when he became the UN Secretary General, I wouldn't say I was a child, but I may not have had a better appreciation of the role he played in the global politics and the United Nations, you know, than people like you. So tell me, what are some of the legacies you would remember Mr. Annan for?
That is a very difficult thing to ascertain now, because really hearing this death has made my mind blank. But you could see that he brought some kind of unity within the members of the UN. It was his time that AIDS was very rampant, and he tried as much as possible to get HIV curtailed. He did quite a lot on that score. I think his whole demeanor of how he handled issues. Rwanda was
a very classical diplomat.
Very classical.
He came across as cool.
Yes, non-confrontational, but he was firm in some of the things he did. And I think he was a good example for Africa. It's a good example for African leaders to follow. This thing about Africans don't, if you want to tell an African something, put it in a book, because they don't read, show that Kofi Annan wasn't that kind of a person. He came from the ranks of the UN. I think he was the first one to be appointed
from the UN staff
itself. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. You don't win the Nobel Peace Prize
for doing nothing.
It's a huge statement. And even after he came out, he was still active, especially where Africa was concerned. If you read some of the reports on the institutions that the Kofi Annan institution that he set up, he was active where agriculture was concerned. He was active where the environment was concerned. He was very active where this plastic menace that is engulfing the world was concerned. So we've lost a gem. One thing I also saw about him was he was very close to his wife. Anywhere he went, his wife was in tow. And you could see that she found herself as a Ghanaian. Because when she came in here, she used to wear our Ghanaian clothing, which was a good thing. So we've lost a gem, and I hope we can give him a befitting burial. As you said, yes, this country is going to be inundated with
right, Mr. Janto, I'll hold you and get onto the telephone lines. Dr. Yao Gebe is joining us on the line. He's an international relations expert to discuss with us, start the discussion actually on the legacies of Kofi Annan. Dr. Gebe, thank you very much for joining us at such a short notice. This won't be the kind of news we would usually wish that we call you to discuss, but very unfortunate, we're waking up this morning to hear of the death of Kofi Annan. For you, as an international relations person, how tall does Ms. Annan stand in your mind and in your eyes?
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, you have broken the news to me. And on behalf of all of us as Ghanaians and of course the international community, I wish the family, the bereaved family, my condolences. As a matter of fact, we got to know Mr. Kofi Annan as the then Under Secretary General for peacekeeping before he replaced then Boutros Ghali of Egypt as the full Secretary General of the United Nations. We all remember very well the problems of Rwanda when he was then the Under Secretary General. That particular episode almost marred his rather good career as a public or international civil servant. But leaving that aside, when he assumed office as the Secretary General of the United Nations, there were quite a number of problems that the world body faced, particularly on the issues of reforming the United Nations and the rather difficult problem that the United Nations Security Council faced. We all remember very well the attempt of Mr. Kofi Annan on the issue of reforming, not just the Security Council, but a lot of problems that the international community faced. Issues of poverty, conflict, wars, and of course, the rather, difficult circumstances of the African continent. And what I always remember Mr. Kofi Annan for was putting together a commission to actually look for the best ways to overcome all these challenges that we faced. And he was able to come out with his own book that is titled In Larger Freedom, where he offered several recommendations. One, as to how the United Nations as a body, which was constituted back in 1945, was to be restructured to respond to the current contemporary needs of the international system. But because of the powers that be, and I'm talking about the permanent members of the Security Council, did not allow him to actually fulfill those recommendations. And you have rightly mentioned it, that even after he left office, he has actually taken over quite a number of challenges to help in resolving issues of poverty, democratic reform, and what have you. And I am never expecting that we will wake up this morning listening to this very sad news. And let me put it that Ghanaians of all walks of life, we have lost a gem. The international community has lost a very important personality, and it will be very difficult to replace him.
Very difficult to replace him. Dr. Yaogebe, we're grateful for your time this morning on New Day, Saturday edition. Thank you very much. Dr. Yaogebe is an international relations expert. And so if you've just joined us, we have been discussing quite a number of issues, but breaking into all of this is the announcement of the death of former UN Secretary General, Kofi Annan, a Ghanaian diplomat who passed away in Switzerland, Geneva, we're told this morning. We're working the telephone lines to get to Geneva to speak to Dr. Victor Bampo, who I'm told was close by in Geneva where this incident happened. He is a former deputy health minister. He will be joining us on the telephone lines pretty shortly to do this. Ms. Adam Bona, I know that I came to you before I went to Mr. Jantua, and one of the things that came to the fore was Mr. Annan's role in during his tenure as Undersecretary for Peacekeeping. Would you say he did tremendously well because you're a Ghanaian, or you'd say by the UN standards he did incredibly well in that role?
He performed incredibly well. In fact, if you know the days preceding the actual genocide, when news started coming in that the Rwandese were killing themselves, they were butchering themselves, it got to a point, I mean, some of us were, you know, it got to a point where I think the general public or the international community were expecting the UN to have moved in. But they have their own, you know, protocols. And so he definitely was working under someone. And so somehow it got to a point where they needed to withdraw. And so then the whole thing, you know, developed into something else, you know, which we now call the genocide. But the aftermath of the genocide, I think it was aftermath that he was appointed to head the UN.
Yeah.
And so, and he, I think after the incident in Rwanda, he came out, I mean, to say the UN would have to put in structures to ensure that we don't see, you know, this type of carnage taking place again anywhere in the world. And I think during his time, he put in measures here and there. We have had countries or communities who came very close to, you know, probably would have been worse than what we saw in, you know, Rwanda. You take, you know, Sudan, you know, had to be, he's been very instrumental. And so one would say, if you want another synonym for diplomacy, you probably would have to put in Kofi Annan. He did what probably most people would not expect the typical African to rise up to that occasion and do it. And so I would say that moving forward, I am expecting, you know, the international community to descend into this country. And so I am hopeful that our leaders would put in the structures to be able to accommodate the international community who will be coming into Ghana to mourn with us. And so, and we'll need to live up to that expectation. And so
that high standard,
yes, the high standard. We shouldn't allow, you know, and I'm expecting both minority, you know, minority parties, CPP, you know, this is, you know, when you talk about political parties and all that, it all has to do with diplomacy. And so if you have someone who rose up to that level, then one would say that he's passing. And as a Ghanaian, we need to accord him all the dignity. I mean, you know, Mandela, probably in this generation, you would want to put Mandela vis-a-vis Kofi Annan. And so let's not play with this person. Let's accord him all the respect that, you know, an illustrious son of ours, and probably an illustrious son of the world, because that is what he lived up to. And so for me, it is a great loss to all of us, and I'm hoping that we will do things the international way, you know, not the Ghanaian way.
Not the Ghanaian way, right. This is New Day. We'll be right back to wrap up on our show tonight. Unfortunately, this morning, unfortunately, the death of Kofi Annan is not the best news we had this morning. We were going to dig very deeply into the banking crisis, but we have to apologize to our viewers and listeners that we won't be able to continue that discussion. We'll be right back. Right, so we're wrapping up this morning's New Day Saturday edition with our concluding comments from our guests this morning on the passing of Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General. Dr. Mensah, the UN Secretary General, I'm Fansipam Old Boy, that's your school, right?
Yes, yes.
And he stood tall on the list of your school's alumni, and
sure.
might have inspired quite a number of you to great
left
heights.
Legacy for some of us to emulate. You know, I can tell you that for someone to go up there all the way to UN as a Secretary General, and then after his tenure, I mean, falling back to Ghana, and then any time he comes, you could see a reflection of Ghanaian in him, and even the wife, like Mr. Gentua was mentioned. I would say yes, Fansipam and Ghana at large. We've lost a man of integrity, a man who knows what he's about, and possibly the world should know that Ghanaians, we cherish, our own. Therefore, we know by their side, looking at the European laws, they will say he deserves to be buried somewhere in Europe. But then Ghana, in Africa, we cherish our own. And so I believe that they will agree for us to
bring him back home,
have him here to come and rest as where he was born, So I believe that he's done a lot as well. I do admire him from afar because he's played a critical role in our Fourth Republic as well, even the transition. So I think, yes, we have a lot to copy from him.
A lot to copy from him. Bobby Banson, Kofi Annan.
For me, as a young, not having the benefit of Mr. Jantue's age
and experience,
I think the legacy that he would leave or he left for some of us was the fact that you can go to your school in Ghana and still challenge those out there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That is why Mr. Bona said that it wasn't right that the news item on him did not reflect the fact that he actually grew up here.
Sure.
Before now, you read about him the first time. The man was born in Kumasi, did his education there, went to Infantipim, went back to Tech, finished before he left for the UN. It means that you can start here and then go and finish there. You don't have to leave Ghana and say that you can only make it and have a global impact when you acquire your education completely out there. For me, that is one of the most important legacies he left. One other legacy that may be quite soft is the fact that despite him living outside Ghana since 1962, you never feel that in his speech.
Sure.
No.
His accent never changed.
It never changed. And whenever I heard him, like, wow. Because some of our leaders go there for 4 years, 5 years. They come back and they speak as if they didn't attend Achimota or...
It's called Aswesri Kontombe.
Always maintain his background. I mean, he reflected where he was. That is the word. He identified himself with where he... And I remember an article written just when he was leaving the UN post about whether he had an interview with one of the international news outlets, whether he had political ambitions in Ghana, whether he could come and then stand for office as president or something. And he quickly shut it down. That you don't have to hold office politically in this country to make an impact.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Yeah. And he was always here in terms of his presence, his voice being felt. When there was any national issue, he would say it. And I think for us, not being an international relations expert, that is the biggest legacy that he left. That we can achieve wherever, whatever, depending on, irrespective of where you come from.
Bobby Bansing. And I must say that Kofi Annan's family has issued a statement a couple of minutes ago, about 9 minutes ago, and I'll take you quickly through that. The statement says, "It is with immense sadness that the Annan family and the Kofi Annan Foundation announced that Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations and Nobel Peace Laureate, passed away peacefully on Saturday, 18th August, after a short illness. His wife, Nani, and their children, Amma, Kojo, and Nina, were by his side during his last days. Kofi Annan was a global statesman and a deeply committed internationalist who fought throughout his life for a fairer and more practical, fairer and more peaceful, I beg your pardon, a peaceful world. During his distinguished career and leadership of the United Nations, he was an ardent champion of peace, sustainable development, human rights, and the rule of law. After stepping down from the United Nations, he continued to work tirelessly in the cause of peace through his chairmanship of the Kofi Annan Foundation as chair of the Elders, the group founded by Nelson Mandela. He was an inspiration to the young and old alike. Kofi Annan was a son of Ghana and felt a special responsibility towards Africa. He was particularly committed to African development and deeply engaged in many initiatives, including his chairmanship of the Africa Progress Panel and his early leadership of the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. Wherever there was suffering or need, he reached out and touched many people with his deep compassion and empathy. He selflessly placed others first, radiating genuine kindness, warmth, and brilliance in all he did. He will be greatly missed by so many around the world, as well as his staff at the foundation and his many former colleagues at the United Nations system. He will remain in our hearts forever. The family kindly requests privacy at this time of mourning. Arrangements to celebrate his remarkable life will be announced later. So that's a statement from Kofi Annan's family. And that's how we wrap up with this morning's New Day. Thank you very much for joining us. For those of you who listen to us on radio, 3FM 92.7, thank you very much. And those who followed our live stream on Facebook on 3news.com, thank you. Thank you to our panelists, Adam Bona, Dr. Lord Mensah, Mr. Kwame Jantua, and Bobby Bunsen. Thank you very much also for watching on New Day. Good morning.